welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. There have been a lot of old MTV clips going around, which I kind of like because I don't have anything from my time at MTV. I have maybe one or two shows that I saved, but other than that, I didn't save a thing. And so it's been fun to look at some of these videos that have popped up. Some that I have reposted if they're on X and on Instagram. I have liked. There was one that went around with one of the greatest surfers ever, Tom Curran. And several surfers had sent me that video. That was really fun. I think that was from early 1995. And there was an interview that I did with Quentin Tarantino. I think it was in 94. And that resurfaced, and I had never seen that before. So that was really fun to watch. So that's why I have my 90s hair, because normally here at Fox, they straighten my hair. And as I was getting ready for the podcast, I asked Dana if she could leave my hair curly, because this is essentially my natural hair. And a lot of people are like, what happened to your 90s hair? It's gone. It's like, no, it's still here. This is how I show up for work. And so she kind of styled it. So that's what I'm doing. Just trying to find reasons to smile and distract myself. Like many people, the tens of thousands of people who have been affected by the wildfires in Southern California. And particularly, I speak from experience with the Palisades fire. We are now entering into a time where we are trying to navigate the process and just spending time on hold, getting hung up on by the bank, getting the runaround from the insurance company. I wouldn't say who the insurance company is. I was very happy with them last week. And then this week, as I was trying to get a claim number like everybody else, I asked what we should do in order to move the policy forward. And no one can get into the burn area in the Palisades. My house is still standing. It was obviously impacted by the smoke. We don't know if it was, marginally burned and what sort of chemicals pervaded the house. And that's what everyone is dealing with, particularly in my neighborhood. In, our little zone in Pacific Palisades is just intense contamination from chemicals and smoke damage. But obviously you've got 5,000 people in one neighborhood. And I think it's essentially the same number in Altadena, the same number of homes that were burned to the ground. So this is on such a massive scale that entering into the vortex of bureaucracy, I was hoping that, the process, I didn't imagine that it would be easy, but that I would have some answers when I started down that road. And I'm sad to report that there is nothing. And I really feel for the people who have nothing. They have no home, they have no belongings. And it feels very, very bleak. And when people say, well, thank God you got out alive. Absolutely. And you think about that every day. And it is such a deep gratitude. But for the people who have lost everything, it's very hard to keep going and put one foot in front of the other when you are facing the challenges with so many people around you who also have lost everything at the same time. And then you've got an incompetent government that, created the conditions that facilitated this destruction. They are still in power. They are going to do whatever they can to cling to power, and their needs are, in their minds, superior to everyone else's who are hurting. They have not been able to give any sort of basic satisfactory answers. And, the fact that more and more evidence comes forward, like there was a report in the New York Post today about a small plant that was growing in Topanga Canyon where they were trying to replace the power poles that were put in place between 1933 and 1955. So this is old, dangerous, corroded technology that is lining narrow roads that are really tricky to navigate to get fire equipment up and down. So they were trying to replace the power poles. And because they found this endangered plant, some botanist who was on a hike went and reported it to the Coastal Commission, which is one of these super powerful, unaccountable governing bodies in California, and they decided to scrap the entire project, revert to the technology or lack thereof that they already had, and fine this entity $2 million for daring to try and build some fire safe equipment that would make it easier for fire personnel to get up and down and access some of these more treacherous areas, but also try and modernize the infrastructure so there would be less chance of the kind of devastation that we've seen in the most deadly and costliest wildfire in California's history. So also on sad news to report, that plant is probably now extinct because that also was torched along with the ancient wooden power poles that house the kind of equipment that is throughout California that Gavin Newsom has decided to, he had a $100 billion budget surplus. Now there is a $70 billion budget deficit. So that's $170 billion that he has mismanaged. He has mismanaged the state. He has mismanaged the state's response to this fire that burns so much of Southern California. If you have anyone, any acquaintance in Southern California, you probably know someone who has lost everything, not just their home, but their life asset, all of their sentimental possessions, anything that ties them to the community, anything that makes them feel whole, feel like they have a life. You know someone for whom all of that is gone. And that is because every aspect that could have prevented this has been mismanaged. And I know there is a recall process in California. I know that that is already underway. It's little comfort to people who are experiencing so much loss and tragedy and grief, who are in mourning for their communities and their homes. But as I have said throughout, the underpinning of anger will be the thing that hopefully removes Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass from office. And they shouldn't be the only ones. They are the worst ones. They should be gone. They should have the decency to resign. Karen Bass shouldn't be forced from office. She should leave office. So, I imagine it would trigger a special election, and Rick Caruso should be mayor of Los Angeles because he has known the devastation that has been knocking on our door for decades now.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
And this all has been preventable, and the people who are in charge, they need to be relieved of power, because the power that they seek, the power that they desperately cling on to, only creates more barriers for people who truly need help because of the eco bureaucrats, because of the insurance bureaucracy, because of the fear of the banks and their insolvency with a looming $150 billion price tag on all of this. My worry is that there will be a confluence of collusion in order to prevent people from getting help, because they saw this coming. They didn't put pressure on leaders to do more. They abdicated their responsibility at every level, at every moment. And when leadership and action were so critical, there was an absolute dearth of it. So I am not interested in seeing Gavin Newsom try and spin another day of this into a presidential run. I hope everyone in the country now knows his name and that his inaction is synonymous with failure. If he would let beautiful communities in his state burn to the ground while he just stands there and watches it incinerate. Imagine what he would do to the rest of the country that he has disdain for, that he doesn't care about. All he wants is more power, and he wants the most powerful. He wants to be the most powerful person in the world. And watch him now. Watch him be confronted. Watch him be mocked. Watch him do a 180 in a press conference where he says that everything was fine. And then when he's confronted with facts, He admits that, it was the local folks who let him down. It starts at the top, it ends at the top. California has to end the reign of terror of Gavin Newsom and of Karen Bass. So, as that is all going on, this tragedy is unfolding again for anyone who is affected. It is an odyssey. But it's not just an emotional and financial odyssey. It's not just the bureaucracy that will take years to navigate. There are also scammers afoot, and people have to be very, very careful of them because as there are so many people in California whose only asset was their home, there are vultures who know that. And as we speak, I was getting scam texts yesterday trying to talk us out of our property. So just be very, very mindful. Make sure if you get something like that, you don't sign anything. You do not agree to anything. Don't agree to anything that an insurance company offers you right off the bat. They may seem like they're being very helpful and empathetic, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to sign away any future financial responsibility of the insurance that you paid for might have for you. My heart especially goes out to the people who not only lost everything, but who were also dropped by their insurance companies and didn't have the means or wherewithal to go out and get future protection. Because now, I imagine after this, most people will be dropped by any insurance company who is capable of doing that. So watch out for scams. Don't sign anything. Stick together. Your neighbors can be some of the most valuable resources. I've had neighbors who have been texting out lists of, where to go, what to look for, what to ask an insurance company for. And here was something that was actually incredibly helpful. And this is a phenomenal tool that I would suggest to anyone with an insurance policy. Say what you will about AI. My domestic partner put our insurance policy into ChatGPT and started asking it questions like, what are the flaws in this agreement? What are the questions I should ask of my insurance company in the case of fire and smoke damage? And the things that ChatGPT gave us were fascinating, and it took 30 seconds. So whatever policy you have, it's a tool that you can use, and at least it will open your eyes to what might be flaws in your policy that, maybe you didn't read in the first place. Most people don't. They don't think that they'll ever need it except for, maybe a fender bender or a lightning storm. So read your policy. Better yet, let ChatGPT read your policy and help you because the navigation of all of these systems is going to be incredibly overwhelming. That's why we have to work together. Help your neighbors, help your friends, help your family members if you're across the country and you hear of something that might bring them some comfort, might bring them some insight, or some piece of knowledge that might make all of this better. I hope that's been helpful to you. I'm going to stay on this story, obviously, as it is incredibly personal to me and some of my very best friends and people I love most in this world, and so many thousands more people that I don't know, that I share a region with, that I still care very deeply about the people, even if I despise the government. This has been Kennedy Saves the World. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.
Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.